If passion could save the planet, climate change would have been fixed decades ago.
Young people are leading the movement for change. Look at this. Young people are banging the drums.
There's so much happening outside, and if only people would listen to this, it's incredible.
If we don't act now, then our planet could be in real danger.
The leaders arriving in Glasgow couldn't have failed to notice the voices on the streets. And at a climate summit, that clamour followed them inside. The UN COP isn't like the elite talking shops of Davos and the G20. Here, the world that's grown, or is growing rich from fossil fuels, is confronted by its peers who are suffering at their expense.
So I ask to you, what must we say to our people living on the front line in the Caribbean, in Africa, in Latin America, in the Pacific, when both ambition and, regrettably, some of the needed faces at Glasgow are not present? What excuse should we give for the failure?
But the delegates here knew that the political realities of getting 197 nations to work together on a climate pact meant failure was always a very real prospect. The UK government orchestrated a raft of ambition-raising deals to cut coal, methane, end aid for fossil fuels and mobilise cash. They may cut a few tenths of degree of global warming. Important, but a sideshow to the main event, delivering on the Paris Agreement.
And by some measures...
To focus minds, President Obama, a veteran of Paris, stopped by.
We are nowhere near where we need to be yet. For starters, despite the progress that Paris represented, most countries have failed to meet the action plans that they set 6 years ago. And the consequences of not moving fast enough are becoming more apparent all the time.
Apparent or not, many countries who depend on fossil fuels seemed happy to ignore them at the negotiating table, although they wouldn't admit it in public.
You must have your own comments.
These are not serious allegations. These are fabricated allegations.
They are fabricated?
Allegations, yes.
In the final hours of the negotiations, China, India and others made the move many had feared.
So something's definitely going on here. The plenary was meant to start an hour ago, yet instead, despite Alok Sharma trying to call countries to order to sit down and begin the formal process, they've broken up into huddles, negotiations are going on, and everyone's looking around trying to figure out what on earth's happening.
Their play was to defend coal and fossil fuel subsidies. Ruthless, but it belies some important realities. Phasing out fossil fuels too fast would be unjust. Take Ukraine, which pledged to end coal by 2035.
At the same time, it's not an easy process. We have 65% of people who actually rely on subsidies from the government for the energy poverty. They cannot afford their bills. And with the fluctuations on the market this year, it's extremely difficult. It's extremely difficult for many people.
In the end, Alok Sharma had to go against the science and the demands of young people.
I also understand the deep disappointment. But I think, as you have noted, it's also vital that we protect this package.
The deal was weakened but not destroyed, and time had run out.
And I propose that this decision be adopted as amended. Hearing no objections, it is so decided.
It was exactly what the demonstrators at COP26 had worried about, and the deal also failed to secure the funding the most vulnerable countries needed most.
It's a death sentence for the poorest people on the planet. And not only that, the polluters are saying, to hell with you, we don't care, we're not going to give you a penny.
So very disappointed.
I'm not disappointed, I'm angry, as you can see.
No deal was going to dismantle late-stage capitalism and close the gap between the global north and south. And the one agreed here doesn't even cut emissions by enough or agree to compensate those who are going to suffer as a result. It's a feeble compromise, but it's not a failure. The pact signed here recognises we're in an emergency, and it does lay the foundations for what the world plans to do about it.
I feel very hopeful. I mean, at the beginning of this process 2 weeks ago, I did not think we'd get this far. I think at the very end there was a little bit of a wrinkle, and that's hard to swallow when it's so emotional. Everyone's in the room together, and it's very heavy. It feels like a lot. But if you told me 2 weeks ago that we would have got this, I never would have believed you. And I'm very heartened by the way that the whole world has come together, because they recognise they need to do more for climate action and keep 1.5 degrees in sight.
In sight, but still far from reach. They're packing up this vast climate negotiation roadshow before it moves to Sharm el-Sheikh in 2022. If the ambition there is even greater than it was in Glasgow, we could be in with a chance, albeit a very small one. Tom Clarke, Sky News, Glasgow.